and welcome to Like Mother, Like Murder, your favorite true crime mom cast. I am Rachel.
I am Heather, and we cover missing moms, murdered moms, moms who commit the crime, survivors, and more.
We are going to get right into the case, and once we are done with all of that, we will go into our afterthoughts where we talk candidly about everything that was discussed, and then we will finish with our mom talk at the very end for you guys.
So, this story is one we've all heard of, but it is actually way worse than I thought. Before we dive in, I just want to shout out journalist Christopher Goffard. He wrote a series of articles on this case back in 2016, and it is an amazing read with a lot of details. I got the majority of the information for this case from his articles. I will obviously link it in the show notes, but definitely check it out if you are interested in this story. And then we're going to start today with something that Heather never does. So Rachel's going to be so proud of me for playing a 911 call.
Irvine, please.
Yes, hi. I was calling because my daughter's a student at Plaza Vista Elementary School, and I'm concerned one of the parent volunteers there may be under the influence or using drugs. I just had to go over to the school, and I saw a car driving very erratically, and it continued on into the parking lot of the school, and I was going there, and I just had to look to see who it was and what was going on, and then I saw them get out, and it looked like they had something away in their car and behind their seat of drugs, and they're all over the place. And then they went into the school, and I recognized the woman and parent volunteers for the after school program, and I'm concerned that there were drugs at the school.
We saw her place something behind her seat.
Yeah, it looked like she had some like pills or something.
Okay, what?
My name is Jay. BJ.
And what's your last name?
Chandrasekhar.
Can you spell that?
CHANDRASEKHR.
Okay. And what's your phone number where we can reach you?
949 441 2242. I think the name is Kelly.
Kelly?
Yeah, and it's a white PT Cruiser. And the license plate is 5UBU 496.
B like boy, U like union?
Yes.
Okay.
And it has a license plate rim that says only for the Ruby.
Okay. 1 second for me, okay? You want to know, is this a life or death emergency? Okay. All right. We're going to go out there and check on her and make sure everything's okay, all right?
Oh, thank you.
Okay.
So the date, February 16th, 2011, a Wednesday like any other. Kelli Peters was covering the beginning of the karate class at the school she volunteered for, the school her daughter had been attending for years. She loved volunteering with the kids, loved being PTA president and director of the after-school enrichment program. But soon, this random Wednesday would turn into a living nightmare for parents and students alike. Kelli was called to the office. A police officer was on campus asking for her. He walked her out to the parking lot where her car was parked. The officer explained that a 911 call had been placed, and the caller claimed they'd seen her PT Cruiser driving erratically. The caller also said he saw the driver, who he later identified as Kelli, stash drugs behind her seat. The officer then asked if there was anything in the car that she shouldn't have and if he could search the car. Kelli acquiesced. After all, she had nothing to hide. But when the officer reached into the back seat, he pulled out a bag of marijuana, a pipe, and 2 more baggies with Percocet and Vicodin. Kelli immediately told him the drugs weren't hers and begged him to put them out of sight after he had initially placed them on the hood of his car. After all, this was the school parking lot, and it was full of the after-school hustle and bustle. This officer, a veteran with the Irvine police, knew that people who get caught with drugs often say that. Those aren't mine. But something about this situation did not seem like a run-of-the-mill drug bust, even though what was found could have resulted in felony charges for this PTA mom. He led Kelli back inside to run some sobriety tests, which she passed. He also asked the school to confirm the time that Kelli had said she arrived at the school, around 12:30 p.m. And they did. The call, though, had come in at about 1:15, claiming they had just seen the erratic driver. And then the officer tried to call back on the number the 911 caller had left with the operator. Fake number. So maybe she was telling the truth. Maybe the drugs weren't actually hers. The officer asked if Kelli would agree to search. Oh my God, I'm struggling. The officer asked if Kelli would agree to a search of her apartment. Kelli was reluctant, but she agreed. The officer and another went, searched her apartment, found nothing. So now the obvious question. If the drugs don't belong to her, how'd they end up in the car? They posed this question to Kelli, and her response was, quote, "I have an enemy," end quote.
Oh, that is ominous AF.
Yeah. Do you know what case this is?
So I definitely, there's so much of this that I'm like, did I already tell this? So I do.
We've heard this story before.
Yes,
yeah.
I'm like, I definitely do know what it is, but I'm still on the edge of my seat, not remembering exactly where this goes.
Yeah. So let's, do a classic Heather. We're going to rewind a year almost to the day, February 17th, 2010. The beginning of a rivalry between 2 very different women with very different backgrounds and different families. First, we have Kelli Peters, who we met, a mother of 1, 5 foot tall with short blonde hair. She had quit her high-pressure job to prioritize her family, and she quickly became a familiar face at her child's school. Together with her husband, Bill, and their 10-year-old daughter, they rented an apartment about a block away from the school. Bill was currently working as a traveling wine salesman, and Kelli ran a small business. Then we have Kent and Jill Easter. The 2 had met at a law firm up in Palo Alto after having received degrees from UCLA and Berkeley, respectively. While Jill had also stopped practicing law to be a stay-at-home mom, Kent was on his way to becoming a partner at one of the biggest law firms in Orange County. They lived with their 3 children in a big house with a 3-car garage in Irvine. Like I said, 2 very different families whose lives would now be intermingled for history because of a mishap that most likely happens at schools everywhere, every day. It was 2010. Kent and Jill Easter's 6-year-old son was attending the after-school tennis class. And as director of the after-school program, Kelli had the responsibility of rounding up all the kids after the class and then handing them off to parents. Unfortunately, on this day, the Easter son was left after class for about 5 to 10 minutes, where the tennis instructor found him and then walked him up to the front desk himself. Jill Easter wanted to know why her son wasn't with all the other students. She felt that her son was upset. She talked to Kelli. Kelli apologized. She even gave the boy a hug. She was fond of him, recalling he was quiet and smart and loved being part of the art program. He often would show off his drawings to her. Kelli explained to Jill that the 6-year-old had been slow to line up with all the other kids, and she just hadn't noticed he wasn't there when she was herding all the other kids to the front for pickup. Then, according to Kelli, Jill had more questions about the tennis instructor. Why had he brought up her son to the office himself? But Kelli just explained that wasn't out of the ordinary. Instructors brought kids to the front all the time. And as the conversation ended and Kelli walked away, she heard Jill muse, "How can you sleep at night with how you treat people?" Along with a threat, "I'll get you." Kelli felt awful. She went inside and started to cry. But that wasn't the end of it. The next day, Jill went to the school stating that her son had been locked out for 19 minutes and had been crying hysterically. She also said she wanted Kelli gone. After all, that volunteer had blamed the whole situation on her 6-year-old for being slow. Jill went on to state that her son is very intelligent and athletic and not slow. She ended up telling the school principal that she didn't want any other children to be hurt and threw in the fact that both she and her husband were lawyers. The school did their due diligence. The district after-school director interviewed the coaches and the Easters and concluded that the boy had been left outside for no longer than 8 minutes before the tennis instructor found him and brought him to the front. But Jill kept harping on the fact that Kelli had called her son slow, implying an intellectual slowness. Jill had started campaigning against Kelli. She was speaking to other parents and threatening to make a sign that she'd put on her car saying everything that Kelli did. She wanted Kelli gone. Kelli was beside herself. She even offered to leave just to avoid the controversy. But the principal and the school stood by her. Like I said, this kind of thing happens a lot. You would think that it would eventually die down, but no. Kent and Jill Easter were not letting it go. Jill ends up going to the Irvine police to look into what happened. And they did and explained there had been no crime committed. Jill then asks for a restraining order against Kelli, saying that she was stalking her and her son and that she had even threatened to kill her. There was no evidence of this.
Okay.
So the case was thrown out. But the pair of married, trained lawyers were still not done. They filed a civil suit claiming their son had been falsely imprisoned with the intention to inflict emotional distress. They really wanted Kelli to pay one way or another. Eventually, they would drop the suit, with the only outcome being that this family, who raked in hundreds of thousands a year from Kent's high-paying lawyer job, would get a refund on the tuition for the after-school program. And then the school would also now require a head count before children were released from the after-school program.
Yeah,
fair.
That should have been already happening, but
100%.
okay.
Meanwhile, though, the Irvine police were still looking into the case. After all, this was a case involving drugs that were found on school property, no less. Irvine had been and still is considered the safest city of its size and boasts some of California's best schools. Irvine had a reputation to uphold. So a detective was assigned to the case and reviewed the evidence. The drugs had been found in Kelli's car, but there was no evidence found at her apartment. He checked out her record and asked the school about her. All clear. So he went back to what started it all, the 911 call about an erratic driver in the school parking lot.
Sure, that 911 call is more erratic than her driving ever has been. That was one of the most annoying 911 calls I've ever heard in my life.
Right?
Who calls to give information and then they sound like that?
It's bad. So thank you for saying that, because you listen to this and there's definitely some red flags about this.
Yeah.
The caller was stuttering a lot.
Yeah.
Maybe calling 911 can be a little nerve-wracking for some people, like if it's a crazy situation. But if you think about it, he's just calling to say, hey, I'm just not so sure about this car. I saw her. I feel like I saw drugs. And then she walked into the school. I'm worried. Right?
Are you driving a big rig that you can see someone stash something in the backseat of a car too, my guy? This is crazy.
Right?
Also, the other thing is I've played a lot of 911 calls on like Mother Like Murder, and every single one of them has been more of a crime than this, okay?
Yes.
And every single one of them has been more clear and like you can understand what they're saying more than this guy at all.
Yes.
So,
yes.
oh boy.
So there is all that. There's also the thing that the caller's accent seems to change halfway through the call. Little harder to explain. We already know that the callback number this person left was fake. But let's talk about the name, VJ Chandrasekhar. He claimed that he had a daughter who goes to that school. They didn't have anyone registered by that name. Maybe the daughter has it.
Smart enough to have that down. Idiots. I'm sorry, you guys. I'm sorry. I'll keep those comments till later.
No, I mean, it's true.
What?
Okay, and this is not to mention that this person didn't even give the correct spelling of this relatively popular South Indian last name. He completely
can't spell that either.
You can't smell it, okay? So the next step, detectives traced the call. They found that it had come from a business office in a hotel in Newport Beach. They go there, they track down the video surveillance, and they show it to the school principal. Because besides the Easters, who had been hounding on Kelli, there was another potential suspect that Kelli had thought could have been responsible for planting the drugs. She had described that this other possibility was a dad who lived near the school and had a reputation that was known both to the school and to local police for kind of weird behavior. And Kelli said that at one point, this guy had been coming after Kelli's PTA job. So they go, they get the footage, they show it to the principal, and the principal immediately says, that looks like Kent Easter.
Yeah, they did. She knew. End. This is over. They're arrested, locked up, and their charge is horrible 911 call.
So the police keep looking into it, and they find that, well, indeed, Kent Easter's office was just across from that hotel in Newport Beach. And they keep looking into the couple, more incriminating evidence. Kent and Jill lived about a mile from Kelli's apartment. And on that fated Wednesday in February of 2011, both Kent's BlackBerry and Jill's iPhone had exchanged several text messages early in the morning, like 2 a.m. to like 4 a.m. The text pings showed that the iPhone was near the Easters' home and the BlackBerry was pinging near Kelli's apartment. Less than a month after this, search warrants were issued, and the police simultaneously searched Kent's office and the family home. When they got to Kent's office, they kind of corner him in the parking lot, and they start asking him questions. Did he know about the incident that happened a few weeks ago at the school? Why was he out in the wee hours of the morning that day? All of these things, and Kent immediately asks for a lawyer. This didn't stop detectives, though, from doing their search warrant and looking in his car, where they did find some diet pills in a baggie. The same type of baggie that was found in Kelli's car, filled with Percocet and Vicodin. Meanwhile, over in Irvine, they were also going to search the Easters' home. And as fate would have it, the plot thickens. While they're outside getting ready to go into the house, a man starts walking up to the Easter home. And at the same time, Jill comes out of the house in lingerie. When the unidentified man and Jill both spot the cops, they turn tail. Jill runs back into the house, and the man starts walking the other direction. The cops pull him over.
Yeah.
Turns out he's a married fighter.
Fighter.
So my kids say firefighter, they say fighter. He was a married firefighter, and he and Jill Easter had been having an affair for over 2 years. The police explained what they could to this guy without revealing details about the case, but it basically came down to this. Hey, guy, you are now in the middle of something pretty big that could come back to bite you, a married man, and a career as a firefighter. Did I say that right? Firefighter.
You did. That one was correct.
Okay. So they confirmed that he wasn't in the area when the drugs were planted, but they still wanted his help. And after a bit, they got him to wear a wire and try to talk to Jill about what happened. He started by explaining that the cops had been asking him questions and maybe they should take a break. Maybe this wasn't something he needed to be doing. So he's like, Jill, what in the world is happening? After a lot of back and forth, he simply says, look, if you didn't do anything wrong, then it's all going to be fine. And this set Jill Easter off, retorting angrily, quote, I'm not going to be fine, end quote. So things stayed heated and the couple broke up, at which point Jill shows up to where he lives and writes a letter to his wife detailing the whole affair.
This girl is crazy. I mean, I want that to come out. I don't like cheaters, but I'm just like, this girl is wild. She is bizarre.
It gets even wilder.
Bizarre.
So, in the year that would follow, a battle ensued. Jill and Kent Easter, they have money and they're lawyers and they have powerful lawyers. And they were fighting tooth and nail to keep any of the cell phone data from evidence. Meanwhile, Kelli and her family were struggling. She had started seeing a therapist after the drugs had been found in her car, and she was worried about every little thing. Anxiety at an all-time high. What was going on? Who was out to get her? Was she going to be sent to jail for the drugs? Her previously safe existence in the safest city had been turned upside down. Her daughter was also feeling the impacts of the situation. She became isolated, and she was actually scared to sleep by herself. But luckily, there was a little light at the end of the tunnel. The items that had been found in Kelli's car had been tested for DNA. And finally, over a year later, in June 2012, arrest warrants were issued for the two people who matched that DNA. Kent and Jill Easter were charged for planting the drugs in Kelli's car.
Good.
But in the good, it doesn't end there. Because in their typical Easter style, they were relentless. They were not giving up. And with their powerful attorneys and their legal know-how, they continue to try to work the system. So we know that there's rules about whether or not a wife can testify against their husband against a wife. We also know that because Kent was a lawyer, his BlackBerry, his office, all of that is full of private information about his clients. So getting information from his BlackBerry or that didn't have anything to do with clients or didn't break any of the rules against husband and wife was difficult. And they did try to work the system, trying to do this thing where Kelli would it was a whole thing. Read the article that I will link if you want to know more about it.
Okay, I will.
But the bottom line is they were trying all this shit, and luckily the judge on the case shut it down. He's like, no. A year later, as the trial was finally getting ready to start, Jill Easter makes a deal. She would plead guilty to a felony count of false imprisonment by fraud or deceit, and she would testify in her husband Kent's trial. So the prosecution has hard evidence. They have Kent's DNA on the item found in the car. They have the cell phone pings that placed Kent's BlackBerry near Kelli's apartment, and that Jill Easter was going to testify against her husband. The defense tried many tactics to win over the jury in Kent Easter's trial. They minimized what happened to Kelli that day back in 2011. After all, she hadn't been arrested, she hadn't been booked, she hadn't even been handcuffed. Their biggest argument, though, it was all Jill's idea, and Kent was a powerless pawn in her plot for revenge. According to Kent, he worked endlessly at the office. He overlooked his wife's unfaithfulness that he knew about and her obsession with tearing down this PTA mom, Kelli Peters, all to placate his overbearing wife. He then goes on to say during the trial that even though it was his phone, his BlackBerry, that pinged near Kelli's apartment, it wasn't him. No, Jill had swapped phones with him, and without him knowing, she snuck out that night and planted the drugs in Kelli's car. And then the next day, it was Jill who called Kent and told him that she had seen Kelli popping pills and driving crazy in the parking lot. And then she insisted that her husband call the cops. So the obvious next line of defense would be to put Jill on the stand. Jill, who had already pleaded guilty and could maybe back up the argument that this was all her and her husband was innocent.
Yeah.
But instead, the defense rests and they don't call Jill to the stand. And instead, the jury is sent to deliberate. The final results, 11 to convict and 1 holdout. I know.
What is happening?
I know. So 10 months later, they're getting ready for the second trial. And much like the first, Kent is weaving this woe is me story. But this time, Jill is called to testify. Only now she has hearing loss. So to remedy this, she wants a sign language interpreter and a screen to read the lawyer's questions as they ask them out loud.
It's like the most annoying girl I've ever not met. Oh my gosh.
So would this be to Jill's advantage? Would it allow her extra time to think about how to state her responses to all the questions? The prosecutors certainly thought so, and the judge agreed, saying, look, Jill, you can have access to a sign language interpreter like everyone else, but you don't get a screen to read the questions. And this was good because the defense seemingly also realized, look, this isn't going to do any good for us either. And at the end, Jill doesn't testify again. But how are the prosecutors going to ensure a conviction this time? They'd been working really hard between the two trials, and they zeroed in on a key piece of evidence that seemingly everyone had missed until now.
Oh boy.
So while the prosecutors were reviewing the cell phone data, it was clear that the pings from the text sent between Jill's iPhone and Kent's BlackBerry that night, it showed that, okay, Jill's iPhone had been at the couple's house. But when the prosecutors reviewed other cell phone data, namely automatic data checks, they found that that night, Jill's phone had also been pinging near Kelli's apartment. So, even if Kent's story is to be believed that they had swapped phones, it still doesn't explain that at one point during the night, both phones were pinging near Kelli's apartment.
So you're saying they went together? I was like, this girl took both phones. Like, she just took both phones with her. I still thought he was innocent. Like, innocent to a degree. But
so his claim during trial was that Jill left her iPhone there charging and then took his phone.
Yeah.
And then he says, I didn't even know she left the house. So that completely derails your story.
Yeah.
It was, maybe I can go into more in the afterthoughts, but there was also this whole thing where the lawyer for the prosecution was like, so you know your wife had been having an affair. And Ken's like, yeah. And he's like, and her phone is sitting right there next to you on the nightstand. He's like, uh-huh. And then he's like, you didn't look through it?
Yeah.
To like check on this thing.
Right.
It's like, yeah, I never thought to look through it. I'm like, okay, liar. Okay.
Yeah, he's probably like, I already have so many times. I don't even
probably
pay attention to her anymore.
So,
Yikes.
a 2-hour deliberation by the jury, and Kent Easter is found guilty. Ultimately, for their crimes, Jill was sentenced to a mere 120 days in county jail, for which she only served less than half, and
gosh.
100 hours at a Costa Mesa soup kitchen.
Okay.
Kent is sentenced to 180 days, again, only serving half, plus 100 hours of community service and 3 years probation. Luckily, though, I know your face is like, what the?
This irritated. Yeah.
This isn't the end of the case. You have every right to be irritated because they literally had illegal drugs and
planted
them to try to get this woman in trouble for what? So this goes on, though. Don't worry, because now it's Kelli's turn to be persistent. Up until the arrests, like I said, Ken Easter was at one of the biggest law firms in Orange County. He was on his way to making partner. I think he also actually did eventually make partner right before this all kind of came down. He was making like $400,000 a year.
Mm-hmm.
So they go to civil court for this. And he claims at this trial that he and his family were broke and that coming after him would be unnecessary punishment. Luckily, though, the jury didn't agree. And during that civil trial in early 2016, they awarded Kelli Peters $5.7 million.
Yes, I love that. Heck yes. Okay. I was like, please be high. Please be high. Please be high. Good.
And I'm going to talk about it a little bit, but it's crazy because this was 5 years later, right? This all, the drugs were found in 2011. So this is 5 years later.
A lot of emotional distress and just so much.
And I'll get into it a little bit, but yeah. So Ken Easter and Jill Easter, who ends up changing her name, by the way, they did end up divorcing in between this time, like dealing with custody, all this stuff. But both of them were still trying to fight the civil suit. Kent tried to claim that Kelli's lawyers hadn't shown that he even had the means to pay that amount. But it's like, dude, you were making $400,000 a year. You had a nice house in Orange County, like whatever. The judge also was like, no, you're going to pay this money. But then Kent goes and files bankruptcy, which makes it even more difficult, right, for Peters to be, Kelli to be compensated. So this is in 2016. Later that same year, Kelli Peters actually goes on to Dr. Phil to promote a book titled I'll Get You, Drugs, Lies, and the Terrorizing of a PTA Mom.
Ooh. Yeah.
She's hoping that this book does well because at this point in 2016, after the civil case had been won, she still hadn't been paid any of the judgment.
Ugh.
Because Kent and Jill are fighting it. So it's 2016. It's been 5 years since the terrifying ordeal. And although the Peters family was healing, they did still struggle. Kelli, Bill, and their daughter had all been diagnosed with PTSD from the experiences with the Easters. And their daughter, who was only like 10 or 11 at the time, she ended up even changing schools as a result. She just didn't feel safe. And neither did Kelli. Kelli also explained that Bill, who had been diagnosed with leukemia, was unable to work anymore. So they're really going through it.
Yeah, for sure.
Unfortunately, Bill would pass away a few years later. So in an article from 2018, which is the last thing I could find, it seemed that Kent Easter had eventually dropped all the appeals he was trying to do with the civil suit and had managed to pay a, quote, significant sum, end quote, to the Peters family.
Okay.
But Jill Easter, who had since changed her name to Ava Everhart, had not yet paid and that was in
I was going
2018.
to say, is missing. She left.
No, there's so much more if you go on Reddit about this woman.
Ugh.
I
don't want to do that.
She's
exhausted me from this episode. Like, that's
exhausting.
how I feel right now.
She's exhausting.
Yeah.
Now, my hope is that there was a payout for everything, and that the Peters family is now, still healing and is doing what they need to do and not having to worry about this shit anymore.
Yeah.
But the last I could find was from 2018. So my hope is that it got paid out quietly, whatever, and that's that. You can buy Kelli's book. It's available like on Amazon.
Yeah.
You can buy it. And I highly recommend it. I also highly recommend this article by, what was his first name? Christopher Goffard. I think he's like a Pulitzer Prize winning journalist. Amazing. Did so good with these articles.
Yeah.
But that is the story of Kelli Peters and Kent and Jill Easter. That is the infamous story that almost everyone has heard about but doesn't really know all the details about the crazy Orange County PTA rivalry where they planted drugs in the car.
Right. So I have a question. Did you cover this on a GBC in smaller form? The crime portion?
I feel like the one that I covered, or I think I did, but I don't know if it was a GPC or if it was the one where we did two truths and a lie case, crazy cases.
Okay.
Yeah.
I know there was so much that I remember.
Mm-hmm. We've definitely talked. Definitely talked about this case before in various small things, either on a GPC or maybe a ABC of Crime, throwing it all the way back. We've definitely talked about this case before. But I did not know all of the details, and I did not know just how off the wall Jill Easter really is. She is a mother of 3. She's an educated attorney. She's the one, I think she went to Berkeley Law. And this is how she's reacting. Now, look. If something upset your kid, I get being upset. 100% I get it. I get having a rough day coming in and being what the hell? I get it. I even get holding a little grudge against another parent for treating your kid a certain way, or just you don't like the way that they live their life. I get that. What I don't get, relentlessly campaigning against her, trying to turn other mothers and parents against her, trying to turn the school against her, trying to file a police report, trying to file a restraining order, and saying that it's because she threatened to kill you. Let alone going so far as to A, have the marijuana, have the pipe, maybe you already had the Vicodin and Percocet, but then going on to plant those drugs in the car.
Right.
And over the years, both of these parents have gone back and forth so many freaking times about what really happened. It's ridiculous. It's so crazy. And you just feel so bad for Kelli because she is doing, God's work. When I think about after school programs, I want to die. You know this. You literally know this firsthand. Could I ever do that? Hell no.
Gosh.
I volunteer for 1 hour a week in my child's classroom in a more structured environment. And that alone is
paper.
I'm good. I'm done. Okay? She is doing God's work. And I get it. Like, shit can happen. It never should have happened that the 6-year-old was like stuck outside, you know, without all the other kids. Like, that's unacceptable. 100%. That definitely needed to be addressed.
Yes.
And the way that I understand it is like, and I don't know the schools, like how it's all set up, but from what I understand, it's like all the kids were outside playing tennis, and then Kelli gets them all from the tennis class, and then goes into the school building, and then like goes to the front and drops off all the kids. When she had gone into the school building, the door automatically locks outside. Now, if this is anything like most of the schools in California, it's all gated. It's all right. You know, it's not like just anyone can wander onto this school. So at any given point, was the child in like grave danger? I mean, he's 6, you know, like not ideal to have him left alone.
Yeah,
but
definitely not.
From what I understand, is like the tennis instructor is like probably cleaning things up and goes, oh, hey, so-and-so still out here. Let me grab him. I'll bring him to the front. Right. So not cool. I mean, you know, but at the same time, if everything that Jill Easter is saying is true, he's an intelligent boy. He's done several after-school programs before. He's athletic. I don't know what that has to do with it. Then, like, not the worst situation, but definitely, you know, something to be addressed. And Kelli immediately apologizes, tells the kid, I'm sorry, you know, explains like, I'm so sorry. Okay, like, hey, can we set up like something so this doesn't happen again? Like, do a head count. Like, make sure kids don't get left behind, because that could have been a scary situation. 100% agree.
Right.
100% agree. I mean, if I was Kelli, I would have already felt so bad, right? She said she knew the boy. He loved the art program. He loved showing her his drawing. She, you know, I would have felt so bad already.
Oh, yeah.
And then I definitely would have felt bad if another mom was like, what the fuck? Because
No, that's when you feel,
like,
you feel less bad. I've been there. Let me tell you. When the parent comes wild, you feel less bad about the situation. You can feel everything in your heart for that kid, but you feel less bad when a parent is psychotic. So being in this position, I've worked in after school. I've worked in schools for a very long time. And the thing is like, these things should have been implemented so long ago. There's a lot that doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me when it comes to how kids get forgotten or left somewhere. Yeah. We see it too often.
Oh, yeah.
There are a lot of measures. There are a lot of ways to, you know, have that not happen. Mm-hmm. And unfortunately, things happen. Slip-ups happen, accidents, mistakes, whatever it may be. Okay? I know that you gave 2 different times. I feel like the first time you said it was like 6 minutes, but then she said it was like 19 minutes or something like that. It was closer to 6.
The mom, Jill Easter, claimed he was outside for 19 minutes and crying hysterically. When it was either I think it was actually the district director of this after school program, right, or it was the principal, but I'm pretty sure it was the district director, looked into it, interviewed the coaches, interviewed the Easters, put together the timeline, and was like, it was 5 to 8 minutes. 5 to 8 minutes.
Okay. So, I mean, again, time, the longer, the worse it is. But at the same time, anytime. Because if you think about your kid, if it was your kid, right, you would be angry. Oh, yeah. Jill has every single right to be angry. She has every right to be upset that happened. The kid has every right to feel sad and cry and be emotional. And this mom is allowed to mama bear up, be mad at the school, be mad at this person, first person to come into contact too, because even if it wasn't Kelli's, you know, doing, it's the first conversation. It's the first time her kid's hugging someone when she sees, you know, distress or something. So there's many ways to look at that. But I mean, my brain goes in a billion different directions of, you complain, you say she shouldn't work here anymore, whatever it is that you do. And then if that doesn't happen, you make all this money. There's other after-school programs.
Yes.
There's other schools.
Pull your kid
There's
out
other
of the program.
things.
Exactly.
Exactly. You've already implemented the law of count the kids, make sure, and hopefully they do that. Not everyone does that. I've been in places, guess what? We're supposed to count all the time. Sometimes I had to remind it when I was head, it was like, are you guys even paying attention to anything you're doing right now?
Are you counting your kids? Where's so-and-so?
Are you even looking? Yeah. Do you even know there's kids here? Okay? It's ridiculous. But to take it to that extreme. So I started notes, okay? So
I love
my
it.
first note is about the 911 call. And it just says, he's dumb as shit. That's literally on my notepad. I want to post just the picture of my notepad. He's dumb as shit. That, I mean, I already made my comments about the call itself because it did seem like the most, you don't even know what you're talking about. It's very obvious you're not the one who witnessed anything because you're just rambling and like stretching for things to say. But when you said that he gave a name of a kid that doesn't even go to the school, I lost it because I was just like, you guys are supposed to be the smart ones. You can't even get
You guys are college
right?
educated. Like, you didn't think that on a 911 call they'd ask you for your name? Like, hello. Well, and the crazy thing is that he said that he was just looking for an, like he said in trial, like, oh, why did I lie about my name? He said he like based it off of like a neighbor they had. And I'm like, and you couldn't even get the name right. Like, you couldn't even get the name right. And because like, as soon as he was spelling out the name, I go, that's not how you spell that. And I even Googled it because there's a couple different spellings of last names. Like, but I was like, no, you're completely missing a whole A. Like, no matter how you spell it was so bad. So bad.
So that was first on it. And then it just goes like, I have dumb lawyers. I have debar them. And then I just have Jill is annoying. I can't stand her. And she's the worst person.
They did both become disbarred. Jill, I think, was like immediately disbarred, even though like her license, her like law license to practice hadn't really been active because she'd been staying at home with her. And these three kids are like their parents are the ones who tried to fucking out Miss Kelli. Like, what is that? And then him, originally his license was suspended for 5 years, but then I do think he did eventually also get disbarred. And rightfully so. These people, like, straight up, what the heck? I mean, that is a felony. They tried to get someone jailed by faking it. Like, that's insane. It's insane. And this article is actually like a set of like 5 or 6 articles that came out over a period of time, but you can read it all together now. They talk more about Jill and Kent's relationship, how they ended up, getting a divorce and going through all of this, stuff. And then I was doing some other looking at it, and Jill, who eventually, like I said, changes her name to Ava Everhart, which I'm like, you ain't getting away from this, Ava Everhart.
Neverheart. It should be Neverheart because she ain't even got a heart. What are you talking about? The girl she is stressing me out.
She is something else. And I saw just some crazy stuff on Reddit about this because when it came down to the civil trial, like she never showed up like to anything with the civil trial, and how that they had done the civil trial. And I don't know if this is because of like how they were divorced or whatever, but like he owed a certain amount, she owed a certain amount, he owed like 2 million, she owed like whatever it was, and she just like never was showing up to any of these trials. And in the civil trial, Kent Easter was like representing himself and trying to just put on this like thing like, he goes, I did this and I feel really bad about it, but I have no money. You can't, like, you da-da-da-da. Okay. And they also tried some super shady shit that right after he was arrested, or they were both arrested, they had a nice house in Irvine. They sold it to, I think, her dad and to try to kind of like hide assets. Like, that's another freaking crime. Like, they tried to do that so it wouldn't come under. And look, here's the thing. I wouldn't want their kids to go without because of the crimes of their parents.
For sure.
100%. But look, you still owe that other family for what you fucking pulled.
Absolutely.
Their poor daughter, like, was so, like, she pulled back. She said she was, one thing I read, she said she was, like, scared of the Easters. Like, she was scared they were just, like, coming after, like, they would come after her because they'd been harassing the family already for a year. And then they go and do this. Like, oh, man. Oh, man. So,
I don't like that. It's
I
hard.
know.
That's one of the hardest things ever is to see your child
go through that. Yeah.
like their personality
shift.
Lose
because
its
of-
sparkle or shine because of someone else or something.
For sure.
So
100%. But that is the case that everyone's heard about probably, but that I mean, I didn't know all of these details. I didn't. And
wow.
that was that.
Good one, Heather. Good one.
Mhm.
I like when you bring these ones that make me
I know.
judge people.
Oh,
Try
plenty
to
of
not be
judgment up in this one.
too
Plenty
judgy.
of judgment.
Got a
No,
lot.
judge away. Judge
Yeah.
away.
Yeah, for sure. That happened a lot. I think maybe this one I'll have a reaction video because
Oh my God,
you had me
your
tripping.
faces were like so perfect. You totally need a
I'm
reaction.
so annoyed.
video.
I'm just
It's so
annoyed. I can't
annoying.
stand
It's
people
so
like
annoying.
that because it's like, who do you think you are?
Mhm.
Who do you think you are to,
Yeah.
I don't
Like
know.
just try to ruin someone's life.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah,
ruin their
exactly.
life.
I don't know.
And it's like, I get it. Like you were upset for your kid. And even if he wasn't, but that's the thing is Kelli was like, I saw him. He seemed fine. I apologized to him. He seemed okay. You know, and maybe you don't know. Like, you don't know. Maybe he wasn't okay. And maybe, you know, there was something more. Like he really just like this really scared him. Maybe.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like, then focus on your kid.
Right.
Like, where's all your efforts to make him feel better? Like,
Yep.
so
I don't like people like that. Like
Nope.
that.
Nope.
All right. Wowzers. Well, I think we included our afterthoughts and our mom talk in that
I know,
one
because like we talked about, I mean, as a mother, a lot of this
Yeah.
resonates. Like, yeah, I would be
Right.
pissed if this happened to my kid, 100%. And I would hold a grudge against a parent.
Yeah.
100%.
Absolutely.
100%. Have and will. But,
Have and will.
but at the same time, like, and seriously, why don't you go back to practicing law? Because you clearly have too much time on your hands. Like, go do something.
Or don't, because if
You're having-
this is what you have come up with after whatever schooling and practicing law you have done, you think, you know what? I'm above it. I'm above the law.
Rachel,
Then
I
you
didn't
probably
even-
shouldn't be.
I didn't even tell you about the whole fact that, like, she had written a book, like a true crime fiction book about pulling off the perfect crime. And it was this whole thing. It was like this revenge. Rachel, it's insane. This woman, Jill
I deleted
Easter,
Reddit
AKA
off my phone. I don't want to
Ava
Reddit
Everhart.
deep dive, but I might get it back to
Seriously.
check into this girl.
She's insane.
Ew, gosh. Hold a
Yeah.
grudge.
Hold that grudge. I'm all about
Hold the
holding that
grudge,
grudge.
but
Like, go
don't-
for it. But don't try to ruin somebody
Don't
else's
need-
life. Like,
Yeah,
that's crazy.
that's bananas. Over something so stupid.
Yeah.
Like, over something so dumb. Okay, I'm done before I scream into my mic a little bit more. Wow. Wowzers. All right. There you guys have it. A couple things I'm just going to say. Buy Hope Houghton's book. There's
Yes.
still hope. Buy that book. Read that book. Also, our friend Kevin, I know that we have played a promo, but he is making a movie on top of every other thing that he does in life
Right.
because podcaster, production, all those things, author, he's written books.
Right?
They're out
Mhm.
there. I'm in it. Heather's going to be in the next one. And then the movie that he is working on right now. Just so many things from him that are incredible. If you have not listened to Missing in Hushtown, make sure you are checking out Missing in Hushtown season 1 on the Wix Girls and season 2 on Bethany Markowski. And from Fire Eyes Media, Secrets Beyond the Sacramento River
I
is available now, coming out.
yeah.
So you guys need to listen to that. Make it happen. So
Yes. All of it.
don't-
We're linking. We'll link all of that in our show notes.
Link. I was going to say, I don't bring these up as suggestions. I bring them up as demands. I need you guys to know that.
This is your homework assignment.
Yes. Yes. Exactly. I love you guys. You guys are the bomb. Thank you for doing exactly what I tell you to do. Okay? All right. We will talk to you next Tuesday. Okay. Love you. Bye.
I love you. Bye. If there was anything, he's a married fighter.
Fighter.
So my kids say firefighter. They say fighter. And as director of the ASS program, and as director of the...
You went to that class.
I did. I got an A for ass.
I got a B for booty, but it ain't no A+, let me tell you.